Hello, and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. $1 billion in Ripple versus SEC, a question about a possible fine. I'm partly to blame for the existence of this title. I sent out a tweet that was eventually retweeted by Fox Business journalist Charles Gasparini. He wants to know if there is any progress being made in resolving the possibility that Ripple will be required to make a monetary payment. A trial will also take place, and we haven't even gotten to the remedies part yet. Nonetheless, we have the regulatory clarity for XRP in particular, which is what was most important to us. What I mean is that there are other variables to consider. There are additional factors at play. Charles Gasparini is attempting to ascertain how this would be funded and what effect the potential sale of XRP would have on the market. So let me give you some background on this. Rest assured, it's nothing to be concerned about. It's worth noting that an active U.S. senator has spoken in on the SEC versus Ripple case, praising the court's conclusion that XRP is not a security. But I hope to demonstrate that, barring a true shift in her views, this senator is consistently contradicting herself. However, I believe it is fair to argue that we, as a crypto community, need to keep an eye on her just like we would anyone else. However, before I go any further, I feel it necessary to state that I have no training in law or finance and am not giving any form of legal or financial advice. And you know that you shouldn't make any financial decisions based on what I say, right? Just a hobbyist here that occasionally posts films to YouTube on various crypto-related topics. Okay, listen, I truly do not believe that anyone in our town cares if Ripple is required to pay a fine. In fact, I've been arguing for a long time that the worst-case scenario is that Ripple loses on a technicality, pays a fine, and we still have XRP clarity. That's still the most important question, as it gets to the heart of the matter. Just what is XRP? Is the very fact that it exists a guarantee of safety? Is that all it is, a commodity? Just what is this thing, anyway? Yes, it's a valuable possession. And so Charles Gasparini had been wondering that possibly the reason XRP hadn't been moving up any higher than it did in the fact that actually retraced might have something to do with an anxieties about Ripple having to pay some sort of punishment in the future. After the SEC complaint against the Ripple, I have to politely disagree with you there. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. In my opinion, nobody gives a hoot. I'll elaborate on pricing in a forthcoming video. I'd rather not discuss that right now. Nevertheless, witnessing some of that back and forth between members of our community and Charles Gasparini. Rather, I merely wished to offer my thoughts on the matter. So earlier today, I posted the following to Twitter. Nobody I've talked to who has XRP seems to care if Ripple has to pay a penalty to the SEC. Please confirm your unicorn status by replying if you are real. For us XRP holders, the most important thing is that XRP has been deemed not to be a security. So, there you have it. And trust me, folks, I believe that with all my heart. It's a bummer that you have to pay for it. What possible practical effect would that have on either you or me? No, there isn't any. So, I'm not making this up, and I'm still here. I haven't come across a single individual who gives a hoot about whether or not Ripple is fined. Our group has grown to include millions of members at this point. In my opinion, that individual must exist. Okay, at least one is probably going to agree with you. However, the point is that this accounts for essentially no people in contemporary society. Someone, then, wrote back to me, signing himself Charles Gasparini. Oh, it seems to matter which Ripple assets are utilized to settle any given fine. That is correct. That's another reason I decided to send out this tweet. He wondered, okay, so how is this thing going to be paid for? That's why I said, I have nothing at all against Charles. Just like, I couldn't give a hoot. Okay. After hearing this, I shot back, Garland House has already stated that Ripple has $1 billion in the bank. Perhaps that was the source. For me, it's a non-issue. Fox Business commentator Charles gasps, Perino retweeted that tweet and asked whether Ripple has $1 billion in cash on hand or $1 billion in XRP instead. They will liquidate assets to cover the penalty, thus diluting the selling price. That brings me to another question I have for upper management, and I think it's fair to ask. It's probably just Ripple and an answer, you know? Perhaps they will not. However, you raise a fair point. No, I'm not insulted by Charles Gasparini's inquiry. Therefore, I answered his question after doing some fast research on Google. In my research, I found that Brad Garland House claimed that the Ripple had over $1 billion in the bank. After a brief Google search, I came upon a movie that was actually uploaded and shared by one of my fellow XRP. Eddie, the crypto YouTuber. So, I told Gasparini that the 1-minute-long footage of Brad Garland from Crypto Eddie that he had shared, I would not be playing it. This video does not require it. But he claims that Brad Garland House says that yes, Ripple had over $1 billion in cash on the balance sheet at that time, which wasn't too long ago. So, I shot back an answer to Gasparini. Good question, I responded. Here's a video of Brad Garland House, CEO of Ripple, recently stating that the company has more than $1 billion in cash on hand. Then I typed out that less than half of 1% of total volume is transacted in Ripple's native XRP currency. As a result, the price of XRP has never seen any discernible change. If it were temporarily raised, I think the effect on the worldwide price of XRP would be minimal, if not undetectable. So, consider this, even if for a short time XRP was briefly multiplied by a factor of 4 due to Ripple. They're doing rather well in terms of volume, in compared to other XRP exchanges throughout the world, their volume has quadrupled. Even so, I have no idea if that would be sufficient. Because, as I've already shown, XRP trades at a volume of less than 0.5% of the whole. And even if it did have an effect, it would be a minor blip on the radar and the problem would disappear, so how is this going to be something that would be detectable in the first place? If Ripple stopped doing that, it wouldn't matter. In my opinion, it's all a bunch of hooey. And lawyer Bill Morgan did make a note of the fact that I blanked on the firm's name. Is Medico to blame? Is that what I think it is? Right? Those who deal with institutional custody, I believe, are responsible. If my mind is playing nice, I could be wrong about it. You can verify my claims. But he mentioned, and I believe he mentioned a number like $250 million, but I couldn't recall it, that. If that's the case, then perhaps they've spent down to less than $1 billion. Think about this jury, though, it's crazy. However, the SEC indicated that Ripple could use proceeds from the sale of XRP to cover legal fees during the pre-trial phase of the lawsuit. That has always struck me as absurd, since the whole point was that they were breaking the law. The SEC has now given Ripple permission to implement these changes. It's possible that they were dissatisfied with the trial's length or the expenditures associated with some components of the study, as I recall hearing some reports at the time saying that they were. The SEC's response, "Oh, money's no problem for Ripple, they can just sell XRP," was disrespectful and ridiculous. Since their argument is that it breaks the law. But they're saying that's fine, let Ripple handle it. My objective in bringing it up, though, is to continue that line of thinking. If the final fine ends up being greater than Ripple can pay, they can always sell more XRP to cover the difference. Programmatic XRP sales have been deemed unlawful by Judge Torres. So long as that continues to be the case, Ripple should be okay. If they need to, they can unload a lot of XRP. I witnessed some poisonous Bitcoin maxis when an attorney was basically making stuff up. However, he predicted that the total cost of all penalties would exceed $2 billion. The SEC's estimate of $1.3 billion shows that they, too, were not expecting quite so much. Make up a number, but don't bother anyone. You can sell your XRP at some point in the future without worrying about the value of your Ripple. It's so preposterous that it's laughable. There is a Bitcoin Max available now. It's been fascinating and enjoyable to see them completely lose their heads after being proven right about XRP's impending destruction. They simply can't take it any longer. People here can't stop discussing it. So, let's see how that plays out. Nonetheless, I'm not at all concerned about this. It's likely that Ripples will have to pay a fine. What transpires, we shall see. Because, the issue was, will there be an appeal on either side? Will there be a settlement that truly squashes all of this? I'll actually talk more about this in a different video. Consequently, there is a great deal more to discuss. But let me proceed to the following section. At the opening of the film, I referenced an item from Crypto News in which the crypto queen, Cynthia Loomis, expressed her approval of the impending collapse of XRP. This tweet is already a good thing. All of us should be able to support this. Senator Cynthia Lewis sent the following message. I applaud the decision of the Southern District of New York finding that crypto assets traded in secondary markets may not be investment contracts, and she put that in my statement in response to the ruling in Securities and Exchange Commission versus Ripple Labs Incorporated. This is the stance that was taken from the get-go by Section 501 of the Loomis-Gillen Responsible Financial Innovation Act. To pause and take note, then. That is, if wow, that's great. But I'm going to tell you that as soon as I finish this quote, I'll show you why we need to keep an eye on her. However, she continued by saying that the ruling proves Congress must establish a transparent framework for regulating the crypto asset business that ensures the highest level of consumer safety. To maintain the Howey test as construed by the Southern District of New York, we must win Loomis-Gillibrand. If that's how it's going to work out, then that sounds great. In all likelihood, you have me on board with that part of what's here at the very least. So to continue, by the way, that just in case anybody had missed this bill, which was originally touted in the summer of last year, I think it was shelved, and then very recently, within the last few days, week, whatever it's been, it was trotted back out and with some modifications. Theoretically, this bill is meant to safeguard all forms of cryptography. Therefore, consider that. Just consider how great something appears to be at first. I believe we are in agreement. And then, consider this. This occurred not too long ago. A CoinDesk headline is as follows: U.S. Cynthia Loomis, Senator, the status of Ether as an investment asset has changed. A few quotes from Senator Cynthia Lucas that I think are worth highlighting. Quote, it's starting to look more like Bitcoin is the only thing that would qualify as a commodity, end quote. Well, that's kind of alarming, end quote. My bill might have stopped FTX. What happened between December and now? How long has it been? A year? 6 months? From where you are, where would you go? If Bitcoins are all you have, that's okay. Oh, we'll just keep everything safe, is that right? If she changed her mind that quickly, that's fantastic. I have my doubts if this is worth looking into. Here's another one of her quotes explaining why Ether is a security due to the transition from proof of labor to proof of stake. She continued, saying, the current inability to unstuck tokens makes it potentially subject to being considered a security. That contradicts something you said only 2 days earlier. So, what? Honestly, I have my doubts about that. If this is as promising as it seems, I think we should keep a watch on it. Okay. Super duper, I'm not sure this will pass muster, but if it does, it may be great around here. We could use some clarity. Given the current political climate, I highly doubt it. However, if Ether is indeed a security, then only Bitcoins appear not to be. Yes, we are committed to supporting the judge in his ruling. I had to do a little head scratching. I'm curious as to your thoughts. I think it's time for me to leave. In terms of money, I am not an expert. Nothing I say should influence any transactions you make. Please like and subscribe my channel. See you later, bye.